Hey everyone, welcome back to Auto Joe, and today we have a 2021 Toyota Highlander XSE. This car is brought to us by Supreme Rentals in Manchester, New Hampshire. All their info, including the link to their website, is in the description below, so feel free to check them out. And so before we begin this drive today, let's go take a look at the exterior of the car. So this 2021 Toyota Highlander is finished in this beautiful white color, and it also has this nice black Toyota striping on it, which I think is pretty complimentary of the car, especially with the black front grille we have here. And although it does include a giant Toyota badge, I think overall the front of the car is pretty handsome. On the side here, as you can see, we have these 20-inch rims, and I feel like they fit the car pretty well. I would probably opt for a smaller rim in my opinion, just because you'll get a better ride quality if you get some 19s or 18s on there. But overall, this Toyota Highlander rides really smooth, and we're going to showcase that for you today. Last thing to note here is we have a little plastic fender flare, and these just kind of help protect, you know, the body of the car from kicking up mud or dirt or dust or even snow in a climate like this one. In the back here, you can see that we have the XSE all-wheel drive badging here, which basically just means that we have all-wheel drive. There is a front-wheel drive version of the Toyota Highlander XSE, but today we have the all-wheel drive version, which I'm very happy about. And we also have these dual exhaust pipes that are together instead of like one being on either side, and I feel like it's pretty fitting with this Highlander. And so while we're back here, let's take a look at the hatch. As you can see, we have plenty of room, starting with, you know, just kind of the regular trunk area. But if we were to fold down these seats, you could also, you know, if you fold down this third row, you're going to get a lot more cargo space back here. But it really depends on how many people you're bringing on a road trip with your family. So getting into this second row, as you can see, we have these nice, lovely captain's chairs here. I always liked these in my old Dodge Grand Caravan, and I feel like they're pretty fitting in this Highlander. You have plenty of room for your legs. Sitting behind myself at about 5'9", I can, you know, reach out and almost do a full extension kick of the seat in front of me. Just hope that your kids don't do that to you. And so down here we also have climate control, so these rear seats can have their own climate and not worry about what's going on up at the front of the cabin. So that's pretty nice. And we also have USB ports down here, so your kids can charge their iPads or their iPhones or whatever devices they have. And they also have these little cubbies behind the front seats. And just above us, getting a little too close for comfort, we have these vents. And these are what's going to be pushing out the air primarily on your rear passengers, giving them plenty of air in these back seats. Last thing to note is we have these little shades that pop up for the sun. Always nice to see these in cars, and you know you're getting them when you're in a luxury SUV. And although I'm not going to embarrass myself by trying to fit into these back seats, as you can see, we have plenty of leg room for, you know, having a rather smaller third row. This isn't going to compete with your, you know, Suburban, but still, to have a third row that has some leg room, not too shabby. So now that I am back in my front seat, I will say that the one thing I like about this Highlander is that although this is a family SUV, you still have some focus here in the front seats. We have heated seats, we have dual climate control, we have wired Apple CarPlay via a USB port, which we have 3 down here, and we also have our regular 12-volt output. And then in here, we have another 12-volt. And we have plenty of multi-layered storage space. Really great and convenient for long road trips. And then last thing to note is we have our little wireless charger. It has like a rubbery texture to it to prevent your phone from sliding off of it if you were to brake kind of hard. And then you can also cover it and leave your phone charging there as well. And then so upon first impression of this Highlander interior, we also have these little shelving units, which is really nice. A nice and convenient place to kind of put your smartphone and forget about it. All right, now let's go for a drive. So 2021 was one of the first years of the Toyota Highlander redesign, and I believe they would call this more of a facelift, but they did really change the exterior looks of the car. And so my father actually had a 2017 Toyota Highlander, and he absolutely loved it. Very good looking SUV, and I think they didn't quite improve on the styling as much as I would hope that they would, but I feel like if you get one of these with the black exterior package where you have the black rims and the black exterior color, it's really quite good looking. So this Toyota Highlander is powered by a 3.5 liter V6 engine, and these Toyota V6s have been known to be quite reliable. They sell this engine in a lot of their cars, and this is no exception to that rule. So we have many available drive modes in this Toyota Highlander. We have a snow mode, an eco, a normal, and a sport, and even kind of like a mud setting too, but you're most likely not going to be using that with this car. And so for now, we have ourselves in normal, and we've turned our auto start stop function off because I don't want that to be a nuisance and interrupt our drive today. And so they typically put that in a lot of modern cars now to get a little bit better on those MPG ratings. And so this Toyota Highlander has a combined fuel economy rating of 24 miles per gallon. And so this SUV at 4,400 pounds, that's actually quite a good rating. You know, these Toyota V6s are really fuel efficient, and it shows there. And so that paired with the 8-speed automatic, in normal or eco mode, you're really going to be keeping it, you know, below 2,000 RPMs, and this V6 is really not going to have to work too hard. So enough about fuel economy numbers, let's talk power. So we have 295 horsepower in this car and 263 pound-feet of torque. And so moving 4,400 pounds of SUV is going to need a lot of power, and this SUV has it. And so it's not quite enough power to really scare your family, but you're going to be able to pick up to highway speeds quite easily. And so rolling at about 50 miles an hour here, as you can see, we have plenty of sound deadening in here. It's quite quiet. This cabin is really just pleasant to be in. So regarding the steering wheel, we have settings such as adjusting our vehicle settings in the front of the gauge cluster. We have this little digital screen. Might be kind of hard to see with the sun right now. But on either side of that, we have a tachometer and a speedometer, and those are both analog. And so I have always said that that is like the perfect pairing, where you have a little digital screen to add some functionality to your gauge cluster while not overloading it with this giant infotainment screen that you can't get rid of. I think Toyota does it right. And so merging is going to be quite easy for you, as we have plenty of visibility out our rear window. We have these big side mirrors that do really well, providing you lots of visibility and really having no sort of blind spot in this SUV. And if you are worried about blind spots, we do have blind spot monitoring, we have lane keep assist, and even a sway warning if it feels like you're kind of, knocking back and forth and pinballing in between the lane. It's going to warn you of that as well. And so one of the warnings that I actually kind of found annoying with this car was when we first got in it, there was the speed warning on, which took me a little while to navigate the settings and kind of learn the car, but once I was able to turn that off, it didn't beep at me after going 1 mile per hour over the speed limit every 5 seconds. And so these modern cars are definitely throwing in more and more warnings and assists and all sorts of driver settings, kind of making the point of driving a little more confusing and vague. I feel like cars with all those settings off, like turning off auto start stop, disabling lane keep assist, and I would keep blind spot monitoring on. I think that's always a good one to have. But just overall, I think cars are meant to be driven by people, not by sensors and warnings. And so it's rather a windy day in New Hampshire today, so we're going to hear a little more wind noise than we typically would on the highway, as it kind of whips the side of our car back and forth. However, it's still pretty quiet in here. I will say that the rain guards kind of also add to that wind noise, and those don't come standard on this car, though a lot of people like them. So driving at about 75 miles an hour, if I were to be on a road trip right now, I'd say I'm quite comfortable. This Highlander is equipped with a lot of comfortable standard features, such as heated leather seats that also have power adjustments to them. We obviously have the CarPlay, as said before. We have the dual climate control, and we also have a third climate for our rear passengers as well. And so we also have adaptive cruise control, plenty of warnings to, I guess, keep us safe. And overall, this is a very loaded SUV. And so Supreme Rentals in Manchester, New Hampshire has this listed on their site for rent. Definitely check out this Highlander that they have, as well as some of their other cars. They have plenty of high quality SUVs, sedans, and even that lovely Boxster we drove last week for rent. So I've never really been a fan of steering in some of these SUVs. I always feel like it's too vague and too light, but this Highlander is the exception of that. I feel like they make the steering just tight enough where you're not, quite feeling it like you're in a sports car, but you have enough connection to the road where you know where to point this SUV with 4,400 pounds pulling it, and just overall really great steering. So one negative point I have for this interior is they include a lot of gloss black, and although gloss black looks nice when it's brand new, the second it gets a little dirty, it just shows dirt so much that you constantly want to keep it clean and try to keep it clean, but your efforts aren't always worth the squeeze of that lemon, because you end up with tiny little scratches on it. It's just really easy to damage, hard to keep clean. Overall, I feel like I would opt for like a matte black, or even like an aluminum or some other material other than something that shows dirt and damage really easily. So with that being said, to wrap up my conclusion regarding this Toyota Highlander, it's really comfortable. I feel like it's very well equipped. Kind of makes you feel like you bought, a luxury SUV. And although these Highlanders are over $40,000 with an MSRP listed here, you still, I feel like, get enough value for your money where I would feel comfortable spending that type of money on a Highlander and really have tons of luxury options in this interior, not have to spend even more on certain options, because this Highlander is equipped with a lot of those things standard. So with that being said, please like, please subscribe, leave your comments and questions below, and thank you. Bye-bye.